On this week's episode, I look forward to talking with Jim and Gerry, who amongst other incredible accomplishments they've had on this project, they also wrote the NECEC Environmental Bible, which we'll get into coming up on this episode. I'm Thorn Dickinson. This show allows me to talk with Mainers working on the most important clean energy project to ever come to our state. We discuss how this project is providing jobs and other benefits today while creating clean energy for a better tomorrow. Thank both of you for joining in this conversation about this project. And maybe just to start off, one of the things that I see more and more, what political side people are on, is the need for infrastructure, the need for new renewable energy, and the need for particularly clean energy to take fossil fuels out of the mix. And when we see a project like this that has had to face so many obstacles, you begin to wonder a little bit about how successful we can be as a society in moving these kind of key things forward.
A project that has a very substantial environmental benefit, but also well-organized and substantial and funded opposition can prove the notion that a project that is an environmental benefit and can meet the standards that would apply can actually proceed and succeed and accrue real benefits, not just to the environment, but also for future projects that use this as kind of a jumping off point to the new standard for environmental performance.
Well, I've been working in the Maine woods since 1977, and I've seen changes in the Maine woods. We see it more in the last 10 years, the temperature increases and the droughts and things like that. So when Gerry called me to be part of this, the thing that he said that really struck me was the greenhouse gas benefit reductions, and that's the main reason I'm here.
So Jim, one of the things we're talking about here is environmental compliance to the DEP order. I'm assuming this very large book has something to do with that.
It does. The Environmental Compliance Manual, we call it the Bible. And this was really driven by the projects, all of the permits that came in. So the first item in here is the DEP permit. The next item is the Federal Army Corps of Engineers permit. And then the CMP environmental guidelines for transmission line substation projects is in here. The spill control plan's in here. The cultural resource sensitive natural resource area maps are in here. It's our Bible, and it's what we go by and we reference, so that anything that flowed out of that whole permit process, it's captured in this document that we can then go and refer to directly and get the answers.
One of the things I know we all share on is that not only are we proud about what we've done to make this project a success to this point, but that we personally believe in it. I know for me, I just think this project is so critical for Maine and for the Northeast, and both for economically and for the environment. And I think that's one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about it.
There was a moment during the hearings in 2019 that we had two evening sessions where the public got to speak just briefly but passionately about the project. And one of my takeaways from listening to people speak during their opportunity was what a legacy project it is. There were people for and against, or even undecided, but all of them seemed to agree that this was something different, this was something big, and they wanted to have a say in the process, in the project. If they accepted it, they wanted to make it better. But it was something that they literally were, going to be talking to their kids and grandkids about.
My father was a wildlife biologist. I was around deer and bear and moose my whole life. Not always a lot of neighbors. And I think that rooted in an ethic in me and how important it is to protect the world that we have. I know as a young engineer, I wasn't always the best engineer. To be in this situation now, to be responsible for really trying to make this important project move through, it's incredible now. And I think I have to rely on all the skills I've developed plus a whole much more. But what really drives for this is my belief that this is really critical, and wanting to get out there really to every Mainer and let them know the truth about this project and why I'm passionate about it, why I think it's important.
So the angle I approached this project, but also more broadly my education and my goals, was that growing up close to New York City, when you see wildlife or nature, you're inclined to want to conserve it in some way. Like, for example, I didn't grow up hunting because we didn't see wild animals that much, so it didn't occur to us to want to hunt them for food. We would shop instead. That's what you do in the suburbs. And I certainly respect the right and I understand the ethic of hunting, but the trying to conserve what's valuable for future generations so that people can hunt and can fish, then that's sort of a driving force in my ethic of what do we have here, how do we value it, and how can we protect it. And I look at this project in the context of it's a first step to getting there, but it's an important step.
Well, I grew up in the woods and spent all my time, that free time in the woods, playing in the woods and in streams and ponds and that sort of thing. And so when I came to, and my parents are both from Maine, from mill towns in Maine, Rumford and East Millinocket. And so I grew up coming here to visit my grandmothers, and all of my cousins worked in the mills. And so to think back from that time, how polluted the rivers were and the air was in the state of Maine, I remember waking up to the smell of it or driving into town to the smell of it. Everything we do as a society is much improved from that point. And a lot of that is continuing, I think, on this project. As I said, the greenhouse gas reductions is such a big part of why this matters to me. It's really all that matters to me.
The issue of climate change comes and goes from people's consciousness, but it's been, I think in the last couple of weeks, it's been thrust on us again, both with wildfires that have gone in different places across the globe, but also the UN report.
Well, that's big picture, and this project is a big picture part for Maine and the Northeast of the solution to greenhouse gas emissions problems. But each of us has an individual role to play in all of that too, in the decisions we make. And so in my case, it's the choice to buy an electric car when they were first available. It's all electric. And to drive here in that car today, and I'm going to see my 7-day-old granddaughter from here, our 4th grandchild. So I may live another maybe 30 years. God willing, she's got 90 or 100 years. And we're talking about that report that just says, you know what, by 2030, we have to keep under 1.5 degrees Celsius. We're not there. We haven't made. We've slipped back in the last few years. So we've got a lot of progress to make at the global level, but each of us makes a choice to set an example for those that look to us by driving an electric car, by using efficient heat pumps, and all these other things that we can convert to beneficial electrification. It makes a difference that we each make in our personal lives as well.
There's a lot of good, well-intentioned Mainers that are skeptical about aspects of the project, but the question is, if we don't do this, what else do we do? And that's one thing, you don't see that kind of answer from people. They're not saying, well, we think that instead of doing this transmission project, we're going to have to do 110 solar projects, and that's going to mean 7 transmission lines that are going to exit Maine in order to get these same kind of goals. They're just saying, we don't think it's the right idea.
And I think the conversation needs to start at the point where people are asked and really cajoled into acknowledging that we know this is real now. I think we're experiencing it personally, and no one's insulated from it. And we understand that there will be compromises and trade-offs and impacts as part of the solutions. And to get that up front and to acknowledge it, I think, gives us credibility and also starts to break down some of the barriers of acceptance of a project that may have some local impacts and will also accrue some regional and global benefits. If we acknowledge, if there's broad agreement, and I believe there is at this point, that climate change is real, and I think the upside of recent weather events and fires is that it does make it more tangible to people who, to this point have doubted, then the next logical step is, okay, what do we do about it?
It was great to catch up with Jim and Gerry and to hear how passionate they are about this project, both for themselves and for future generations, but also how important it is to them to execute on every aspect of this project, to make sure every commitment we made is followed through, and also to get the message out about how important this project is for every Mainer.